Hello to all my divine beings, and welcome to this week's episode of Confessions of a New Age Goddess podcast. As always, I'm the New Age Goddess herself, Melissa. On this episode, we have a special guest, Mary Lou Cerami. Mary Lou is a yoga instructor, artist, master trainer for Indo Board, and a brand ambassador. So, Mary Lou, welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me, Melissa. I'm super excited to be here.
Of course. Yay! So basically, Mary Lou, could you kind of like give us a little intro so our audience knows who you are?
Sure. So I am a paddleboard instructor and a longtime yoga instructor in my community. I've been teaching yoga for, I think something like over a decade. It's been a long time for sure. And I've been teaching paddleboard almost as long as I've been teaching yoga. It's really, really close. And yeah, that's basically who I am.
Okay, awesome. Great intro. Right to the point. And then how did you get started in the industry?
Well, I was a kayaker first, and kayaking kind of preceded everything. I've always been drawn to the water. I've always been the type of person that was looking for being outside as much as possible. So I was a person who would rent kayaks from a particular place in Chicago, Kayak Chicago, for a long, long time. And then I just approached the owner one day, just on a lark, and he was totally down for it. He's like, so what, you want to do yoga on boards? I was like, yeah, what do you think about it? I heard about it. They're doing it out in California and Florida and stuff. And what do you think? And he's like, sure. And it kind of went from there. And so I started teaching with them, and then I started teaching with other companies. And now I still teach with Kayak Chicago, but I also teach now up in Highland Park at a yacht club. And that's during the pandemic, that was invaluable because the lakefront over here in Chicago was closed, and being able to do my classes in Highland Park at that particular place, it was just wonderful. It was very, very well received, I have to say, especially during all of the closures and uncertainty and everything that the pandemic had brought me. So it was great.
Yeah, no, I think that's just like one of the many ways that you were kind of creative with all of the changes that were going on, and we all kind of had to be, but it really let us know how many avenues there really are to perform the same or similar things. And it just opens a lot more doors for a lot of people. So I love when people kind of, get their hands dirty and get creative with finding new solutions to things. Okay, great. And then, yeah, just so that the audience knows, pretty much all of my guests I know somewhat on a personal level, which is really nice. And I know how we met is that I took your yoga boot camp class at a local yoga studio quite a while ago, if I remember correctly. This was quite a while ago, but I remember I signed up for multiple sessions of it, and I did a couple of your workshops too, as well as yes, the Indo Board class too, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. So that's kind of cool as well. Okay, great. And then could you kind of talk a little bit about the pandemic changes? I know you said you got creative with the stand-up paddleboard, but what other changes did you kind of have to make in your business to keep going?
Well, it was incredibly challenging as a small business owner, especially me. It's woman run, me on my own, basically. I've had a few great partners like Kayak Chicago, and also working with the yacht club and a few other businesses in the past that I would work on their beaches and with their gear. But with the pandemic, it was totally different. I basically started buying my own boards, and I started. Well, I've always scheduled my own classes. I work through my website, epicyogaflow.com. I also have Chicago SUP Yoga. So I basically have different domains. It all goes to the same place. But, one of those things with trying to be, like you said, super creative and trying to figure out, okay, well, what do I do? Now with this venue, I can't necessarily use all their boards for my guests for teaching classes. There was still great demand for teaching paddleboard yoga, but I had to change what I was focusing on. And instead, more people wanted, it was interesting during the pandemic, more people wanted to learn how to paddleboard with their dog. And I call it Sup with Your Pup. And I've been doing that I think about 5 years or so now. I think this is my 5th or 6th year teaching Sup with Your Pup. And it's teaching people how to paddleboard with their dog. But what's really interesting is, and people from Chicago would come up north to Highland Park. It was the kind of thing that I could still do with one group. I would have a whole family, and in some cases they would, because they were all in their own little pod, and we'd all be wearing masks. It was totally awesome. But it was a kind of way where I had to transition what I would used to do, whereas the past so many years of teaching paddleboarding and yoga, I would have like 10, 15 people in a class. I mean, it would be monster classes. I would be partnering with yoga studios. We'd sell the package for their group, and then they'd all come in, and it would be awesome. And this is in Chicago. Well, with the beaches closed, I'm like, well, I can't do monster classes. I can't do huge classes. I can't do bachelorette classes, which were also something super popular way back before. It's like pre-times, it's so funny to talk about it. But yeah, the Sup with Your Pup, I did a few paddleboard yoga classes. It was awesome. And it was a short season for sure. And I definitely lost a huge amount of, revenue for sure. Right. But I remained viable. I continued doing what I'm doing. Now it's really interesting too, because I teach yoga and the paddleboarding. I've pretty much focused everything right now on being outdoors. So, and I have been teaching out, I say we, because I can't do it by myself. So when I'm outside having a class at the local park, doing yoga, not paddleboarding, because obviously here in Chicago it gets cold in winter. But we started in September, and we've been going every month with me and my students. Even we took a break during the really bad snow that we had.
Right.
Have, like, I don't know, it was insane the amount of snow that fell on us. But I mean, I continued going outside and teaching, and I'm still doing it, and it's pretty awesome.
No, yeah, I love that. It's kind of like you have the most resilient people who are able to do it.
I found, but the whole time it would be like 20 degrees, and
wow.
There would be some days with the wind chill, it would be colder than that. But we kind of, I guess you develop a thick skin. You find the like-minded people, and we'd be texting back and forth, days before, talking about the weather, talking about what gear we need, should we wear boots, whatever. It was a total group effort, and we would meet up. It was always every Sunday at 10:30 at Brooks Park, which is a local park in Chicago near Park Ridge, not far from the studio that I was teaching at. Yeah, and we just had our little plot of land, and it was just a super cool feeling, because I've never been out there in the winter doing yoga. I mean, and I would do weights, so we would heat up. We'd focus on cardio and a whole bunch of other stuff, because I do a lot of different things, not just yoga. But everything is yoga to me. But I do put in a lot of different things into my classes. So we kept warm.
Yes, that's important. And I think it's even that sense of community and that sense of accountability. I know, me and my friends were going to be meeting up at this place at this time. And even if I'm feeling like I don't really want to get up, or I'm tired, or it's cold, I know there's going to be a group there waiting for me, and I don't want to miss out on that. So I think, right. Yeah, I think so many people were really looking for that sense of community now more than ever. Because they weren't having it on the daily. So that's so good that you were still able to cultivate that, even in the elements and, different times. So I love that. Okay, great. And then also, during this pandemic, I know that kind of sparked your artwork a little bit too, some new avenues with that. So did you kind of want to talk about that a little bit as well?
Well, I want to say that I'm, for those of you that well, I mean, the fact that my background is web and graphic design, that's something that I've been doing since forever and ever and ever. I've been freelancing with that for a really long time. So all my digital stuff, and I basically, that's kind of like my core of what I do but I guess the thing was, and of course the pandemic has brought out a lot in people, we've kind of done things that what we've always wanted to do, I guess, or we had the time, right?
Yes.
So for me, it was just kind of using that time and looking at what I who I was in that place. I wasn't teaching very much. I was still teaching my Zoom classes, which was awesome, but still it was 2 days a week. There was so much going on. I was having so much difficulty dealing with everything. Not only, I know it was just a really hard time. It was so
Yeah,
hard in so
it
many
was.
levels, just so much. Where I was like, well, what can I do? And I've done mosaicing before, and then I'm talking like travertine tile and grouting,
Mm,
and I've done some pretty big projects, but it was stuff that I did a while ago, and it was stuff I did kind of like within my home, like remodeling projects and things. Like I did a floor, I did a backsplash in my kitchen, and it's something that since I did that, and this is about 2 years back, I've always wanted to do that, just to do that and to do it, and I did go to art school. I do have a degree in art illustration, so I'm like, well, can I come back to that? Can I do? And so I started creating little tiny mosaics, and they were small at first. They were 5 by 7, most of them. I did like a dolphin. I was missing traveling. I was missing being in the water. I was missing so much. So I basically was doing little pieces of what I love, and what I love is nature and the outdoors, and definitely the ocean, and animals, and just so much. So I started making things, and then I have an Etsy store, and that's a whole other separate subject. But my Etsy store kind of, I was selling vintage stuff, so I'm kind of a little collector too.
mhm.
But it was kind of a hobby, a side thing. So I'm like, well, I started in November of 2020, where I was like, well, should I put some of my art pieces on my Etsy and see what happens? And first I put it out on social media. I put it out to my friends on Facebook and different places. And it was actually pretty well received. A lot of my
Yeah.
students, and some of them have a lot of my pieces right now. And it was really exciting then. It was super, super exciting. So I'm like, well, I'll make more. And I made more. And with my graphic design background, I started kind of commingling a background with the mosaic, and buying a really good art paper and printing it on like a really good large format printer. Well, I did a bunch of stuff, and I did bring, I don't know if you guys want to see for those who have video,
Yes,
but
yes, of course.
yeah, this is my latest piece. And there's a little shimmer, and that's from the paper, which is a really, really nice paper.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, you can kind of see it's a horse, and it's made out of, just so you know what I use. I like using, I'm a recycler and upcycler for sure. I use
Uh-huh.
whatever is around. I had a lot
Yes.
of broken jewelry, but I got into sea glass. So I
Yeah.
got sea glass and beads, and there's this one. This is a manatee that I'm holding up. It has shells in it, and the background is paper, and then I have the frames. And yeah, I've sold a few, and I have a whole line of these, especially the first one I held up is a horse with
Uh-huh.
that milk, I call it a Milky Way background. So it's basically the universe and the sky, and I'm crazy about the sky and the stars. And so it was just a way for me to bring what I was yearning for, kind of like my inner soul, kind of to put that out and make something. And it was very meditative. It is very meditative. I'm going to continue doing this, and I'm expanding. I have a few more sites that I'm putting my designs on, and but I am on Etsy, and I'm on my store is Good Vibes Butterfly. So that's where I'm at on Etsy. But I'm pretty easy to find online through Facebook and Instagram. It's just Mary Lou Cerami. That's my name. So
Okay, perfect.
that's basically the whole
Yeah.
art spiel.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I first saw your pieces, yeah, because we're Facebook friends. I saw it on there.
Right, right.
And I was just like, oh my God, this is so cool. And because I think a lot of people, they were looking for that creative outlet, and some people, yeah, they got into painting, they got into maybe candle making. I know I did those too myself. And it was just so good because it's just like you kind of focus all your attention onto that.
Right.
You're getting into that zone where maybe I can't go anywhere, but I'm still kind of expanding my mind in a way. Because I know,
For
like,
sure.
even you said I couldn't travel. So
Yeah.
this is kind of to fill that void somewhat, which it's the same part of your brain, so that makes sense. And yeah, I just love that, to your point, people had more time for hobbies, they had more time to kind of ruminate on the things in a good way. And yeah, it's just so cool what came out of it for you, especially.
Yeah, it actually was the little nudge for me too, because I've been wanting make art and to push art. And then I saw the possibilities of it. I'm like, okay, I'm making this stuff. Let me talk to, because I'm a brand ambassador for Indo Board. You had introduced me as,
Mhm.
and Indo Board has been definitely tied very closely with my paddleboarding and my yoga, just because to me it's definitely about balance and it's been centering and everything else. So I sent them an email not too long ago. I'm like, what do you guys think what do you think about me? And they've been following me as well on, watching my art and everything else. And I was like, well, what do you think about me submitting a design? They're like, yeah, totally. So it's in the works. So I have my Indo boards back here.
Yep.
And yeah, so I'm going to come up, hopefully it gets accepted. So, fingers crossed, because, there's still a process where they have to approve it. But yeah, I got a few designs, a few sketches and things. And so hopefully that'll come about as well.
That would be like just a perfect like marriage of two worlds, like the art,
I
the
know.
Indo board, it's all there. So I love that. Yeah, and I
I
just
do.
feel like you would understand better than anyone because you use the board and then you're an artist. It's like, what more do you need, you know?
I
Um,
did recently a blog post on my website, and I titled it "We are so much more than one aspect."
mm,
We are so multifaceted, and the fact that, you know, me as a small business owner, and I have my website, and it basically shows my yoga and my paddleboard. It's primarily what my website is for. And I understand, this is your business. This is the service you provide. But like I said, I had a little blog post on there, and I titled it, under the tab, I titled it "Artwork," because we are so much more than one thing. We are all multifaceted. And yes, I do teach yoga, but what drives that? What
yeah.
is it in me that what do I see when I'm on a paddleboard? What is it that inspires me? And it truly is nature. And I guess, even though, I'm working towards building my own, eventually my artwork on its own dedicated website, it's still something that I want everyone to kind of see. This is me. This
Hmm.
is, and I changed my social media as well, my Instagram, to show, instead of Epic Yoga Flow, it's just Mary Lou Cerami, because this is me. So I guess that's kind of what I want to put out there.
Yeah, and I just love it really when people do kind of tap into all different parts of them, because
Right.
it always creates like this other thing that could not have happened if we just, yeah, we're one dimensional and only focus on one aspect of ourselves. So I feel like when people do that, I really see something new. I really see something unique, and I see the full picture, and I just feel like that's kind of what we're designed to do. And when we can really see all different parts of us, then nothing's missing.
Exactly. Oh my God, that's perfectly well said. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, great. And then just to talk a little bit more about, stand-up paddleboard yoga. Um, what's something, if someone wanted to take a class, it's their first time, what's something they should kind of be aware of?
Well, for the first thing that I always tell everyone who signs up, and I make them actually do a few checks on their little entry when they're signing up on my website. Number one, you cannot be afraid of the water. And it's really funny that I even have to say that, because I've had people sign up who are afraid of the water, and they sign up because they think that, oh, by doing this paddleboarding class, I'm going to, get over my fear. In a way, that's fine, but don't use my class,
Yes.
because I've had to get people back in. And yeah, it's one of those things. So they have to not be afraid of the water, and they have to be able to swim.
Yes.
So that's really it. Oh, and
Okay.
also, depending on which venue I'm at, you have to either be 18 year older or 12 years or older. So you have to be a little bit. But other than that, as long as you fulfill, one of all of those criteria, you can take my class on doing stand-up paddleboard yoga on Lake Michigan, and I do teach on Lake Michigan. So we are definitely have a lot with whatever the weather is going on, the waves or the wind. There's so many different factors that affect the class, and it makes a much more exciting class, I have to say, each time I go
Oh,
out.
I can imagine. I can imagine. And then also you get the great views too. So no complaints there. Added
Yeah.
bonus. Okay, cool. And then what are some benefits of doing yoga on a paddleboard? Because I know it does very much engage your core, but what are what are some benefits you could kind of rattle off, I guess?
Well, I have to say, there's definitely physical benefits to doing any kind of exercise program. And if I kind of categorize sup yoga, and that's just the, the shorter way of describing it, if I categorize sup yoga as a fitness pursuit, then for sure, yeah, you're going to build a stronger core, a better balance. I mean, there's a lot. But then, there's other areas about sup yoga that just the mindfulness that it evokes, just this sense of peace, this sense of connection when you don't even have to be doing fancy yoga poses on the board, just getting, you don't even have to stand, honestly. And this is what I tell everybody who joins me. You don't have to stand. Don't worry. Everything that I teach is modified for you. So as long as you're not afraid of the water and able to swim.
Check those boxes.
Yeah, as long as those are checked. And we are wearing a jacket style life jacket.
Yeah.
So because it is very deep water that we do go in. The lake is, it's like an ocean, basically. It's an inland sea, really, is what it is. Lake Michigan is quite so fraught with so many different things that we have to focus on. But basically, as long as you fulfill those criteria, as we go out there, you're gonna get so many benefits of just being outside.
Yes.
Being in a whole different place that, just a little bit into, because we do in the harbor sometime too, if the lake's too wild, but even when you go in a little bit deeper away from, land and what we're familiar and comfortable with, it's just a whole other way of being, of seeing, of feeling. And I feel like that for me is why I've been teaching sup yoga for so long, because it takes us out of our comfort zone.
Yes.
I give you all this gear to put on, and I give you all this instructions, and I explain to you how to paddle and everything else. And we get out there, and then you're like, now what do I do? And then I'm like, just breathe. Just find your footing and your grounding, and that's really what it's about. And then I do get a lot of, especially yoga teachers and more advanced yogis, and they're like, I want to do a headstand. I'm like, stand up first.
Yeah, baby steps.
And baby steps. And even these advanced yogis and these people who are definitely a lot more athletic, standing is really one of the hardest things, because what I teach everybody, and if those who are still kneeling, they can stay kneeling, and they're just bringing their arms out, but we get it up into a Tadasana on a paddleboard, standing on the water in the middle of the lake, with all of this, everything, all the sounds, all of the activity, traffic, everything else, because Chicago's a big city, a lot of sounds and activity, but we're off far away. And when you're in a Tadasana, kneeling or standing, and you're just there breathing, it's indescribable. I mean, to me, that is yoga. That is sup yoga. That is the element and the connection of paddleboarding yoga and you, and everything that you are. And so it's spiritual. It's amazing.
Oh, definitely. I think, even to your point, overcoming a fear, getting out of the comfort zone, that's already going to bring you to a different kind of level, different kind of mindset, if you will. And then, just kind of having that inner peace of, I'm on the water, I'm doing something, I'm here because it's something new to me. So I have to really focus on the moment. I can't be thinking of something else, because I probably will fall off, or I have a much higher chance of falling off if I'm thinking about, that I need to do my laundry later today. So it really keeps you, to your point, present moment minded, and also just aware of everything, of I'm using my muscles in a different way. And
exactly.
Yeah, it's the whole experience for sure.
Yeah, you use so many muscles in your body just to do anything. And we keep it simple, depending if it's a windy day, we might do more of the low level poses, more of the stuff that's kneeling and closer to the board. But then on the days where it's like glass calm, we'll be out there, we'll throw out a warrior two, and we'll throw out like a tripod headstand. We'll do a lot of different things, but one of the most beautiful poses is a downward facing dog on a board. And the reason why that's one of the more beautiful and amazing poses is because there's 4 points of contact on the board: your hands, your feet. So you're really stable. You're wide. The boards, and just so you know too, they're really big. They're super wide. For those who are familiar with a surfboard, surfboards are really little and small. A paddleboard is monstrous. I mean, it's probably like, if I were to be standing, it's way, way taller than me, and like super wide. And the ones we use are really, really thick. and, really, really stable. So on those calm days when we're throwing out, let's say something more advanced, like a warrior 3, or even going back to the downward dog. The downward dog, I have to say, is so incredible because you're stable, you're rooted, but then you're looking through your legs and you're seeing the horizon, or you're seeing the beach and the little people, or you're seeing the sky. I mean, I'm telling you, the water line. It is. So yeah, that's definitely a really, really powerful thing, I think, for people. And it's the one pose that when we get into that, people are like, oh my God, this is incredible. Because it's fun and you're not scared of falling in because you're like really rooted down, which is good.
Yeah, it's just that whole, perspective. Even like when people say, oh, I want to do a headstand, you're seeing the world upside down.
That's
It's
right.
just, that's just another element of it. Okay, great. And then, okay, so for some people who are going to say, oh my God, I want to do that, but I know I can't swim. I know I'm afraid of water. Could you kind of talk a little bit just about the Indo Board class in the
Oh,
yoga studio
sure.
on land? I know I took that one many moons ago. And yeah,
Yeah.
I remember my core was really engaged. I was super focused. Yeah, if you could just discuss that a little bit.
So first of all, the Indo board, I use it several ways. So I've taken my Indo board to the places that I teach, and I will offer an on-land paddleboarding class on the Indo board. So the ones behind me, these are the original boards. They're a little smaller and wider than, I guess, way smaller and wider than a paddleboard. So they're really colorful and cool. They're made out of wood, but you
Yeah.
stand on it. Yeah, they're really fun. And there would be a cushion back here that you would put on, and you would set it on the cushion, and it kind of gets wobbly, and you can add more air to make it more difficult, or less air. And there's a lot of different things too that you can do or use with the Indo board. But the point is, I use it two different ways. The first way, as I said, I'll teach people how to stand on it on land, usually on the beach. And I'll show them because it's wobbly and you have to engage your core, like you said. I'll give them a paddle, a stand-up paddle, and I'll demonstrate the techniques, because there is a lot of techniques about paddleboarding that you have to be aware of, and you have to kind of use your body a lot differently and a lot more than, just different things. So you're fully engaged, you're fully rooted, you're on your board, you're learning different strokes, and then we'll do, different things like how to engage more your legs or how to root through your feet. So that's one way. And that's a really safe way for people who are like, I don't know, I'm not ready to go on the water yet, or I want to do this first. So that's a really nice little intro to paddleboarding using the Indo board. The second way I use it is kind of like an Indo board boot camp, like a balanced core workout is what I was calling it. And that's what you had taken
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
your core. Yeah. And that's obviously like, squats, and you'll do lunges and pulses and all kinds of stuff. We'll even throw in a wheel on there sometimes. Lots and lots of different bridges. And so a lot of the different yoga poses will be on the Indo board, and I do call it Indo Board Yoga. And you also mentioned when you introduced me, I am an Indo board master trainer for Indo board, and I do also offer instructor trainers. So for those who have gyms or studios, or just want to learn more and become an actual instructor for Indo board, that is a course that I do also offer. It's an awesome company. They're based in Florida. Indo board was originally designed by a surfer, a world-class surfer who was basically trying to teach people how to master these different surfing moves, which is all, walking the board and, how to do all these fancy maneuvers, but doing it safely. Just kind of like how I'm using it with paddleboarding. He developed, yeah. So it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of different models and thinner ones, bigger ones. So there's all different kinds of, but I totally adore the board itself, and I do use it a lot in my classes, and I do bring them out to the park with me for my my outdoor class that I teach, and also definitely for teaching people how to get comfortable with paddleboarding, for sure.
Yeah. No, I think it's a really nice like stepping stone for that, for sure.
For sure.
And I remember when I took the class, I was like, okay, if I was on the water, I'd be falling in water. So now I'm just falling on my mat, which is a nice cushy surface. So let's see if I fall or not. And yeah, it just makes it, I don't know, like sometimes people are like, oh, I kind of want to like switch up my yoga routine a little bit, but I still want to incorporate the poses. This is a really nice happy medium. So it's a good option,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm always about taking people's comfort level wherever they're at, wherever they think that they're strong or what have you. I always advocate continuously pushing us, me, myself. It's not just my students, but me, myself, always kind of pushing myself towards something I'm maybe not as comfortable with, or just to get stronger at something that I normally would be weaker towards. And whenever you're using an unstable surface and doing anything, whether you're standing on it or doing some kind of a more tree pose, a more
Yeah.
difficult yoga pose on it, your body's gonna work and have to kind of learn new things in a whole different way. And I think that is really what my whole philosophy is, as I said, for my students and for myself, to always kind of work and get better and better and better at things that I'm not necessarily, So I think what better thing than balance,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Because I think even balance, I mean, this would be physically on a board, but I think people even just kind of need it on a personal level too. And this is like, you're kind of already in that energy flow. Hey, if I had a balance physically, then what in my life is not in balance. It really does bleed through, I think, more than people even realize. And also, yeah, just as a instructor, when you're growing, that's going to motivate your students to grow. They're going to see that in you, and they're just going to be like, hey, she's always trying new things, and this is kind of giving me inspiration to try myself. So
That's
it
right.
really does keep growing and expanding more than we even think. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm really, really glad that you phrased it like that, because that's exactly my whole aim when I teach. Yeah, definitely. Thank you
Mhm.
for stating it so eloquently.
Yes, it's noticed. It's noticed. So that helps. Okay, great. And then I think just, what do you have on the horizon? Do you have any workshops that you're working on, or just upcoming classes you really kind of want to let us know about?
Well, let's see. That's a good question, just because the Lake Michigan just recently reopened, because it has been closed for so long. So right now, I think what I'm mainly focused on is continuing to teach my classes outside. I know at this juncture in the pandemic, things are much more open, and it feels like, as more and more people are getting vaccinated, things are reopening and we're feeling more comfortable being inside. I feel like I've always wanted to teach outside, even though I've been doing it through paddleboarding. It's just been one side of it, but I've always wanted to kind of bring this other side, which was where I was teaching with the yoga studios and kind of throwing everything outside. I've always wanted to do something like that. So to me, if me and my students have already been outside in 20-degree weather, and I know
Yeah.
to a lot of people that might sound completely insane, but I have to say that one of the things that kind of keeps me inspired to continue with that is I recently read it was a front page article in the Chicago Tribune of these women, and it was up in Promontory Point and in Lake Michigan. They made a patch towards the last March that every day, no matter what, every single day, that they would show up and go into Lake Michigan to swim every day. And I'm talking breaking the ice and going in there, even
Oh
just
my
for a few
gosh.
minutes. I know.
Yeah.
So that shows that if you actually commit to something, and if you have a few people, because it wasn't a one woman, it was a few women who did it, and they continued doing it, and they showed up and they went every single day. And that, to me, we had a pretty brutal March, or I'm sorry, February here was right. It was February. Was
Yeah,
it
it was
January?
February. It was
February.
February. Yeah.
It was ridiculously cold. It got to a point in the weather, and they talked about it in the article, where the air temp was actually the water temp, so within Lake Michigan, was actually warmer than the air temp.
Hmm.
And that's something. That's
Yes.
something,
Yeah,
isn't it? So they
for
would go in the
sure.
water and be like, "Oh, it's warmer in here," and then when they'd get out, oh. So you only have a few minutes. Obviously, hypothermia, there's a lot of factors. It's not something that I do personally, but when someone who knows what they're getting into and they do it correctly, to me, that's amazing. And I was so inspired by that article. And I was thinking, well, what I'm doing, just teaching people, we're wearing jackets and boots and everything
Yeah.
else, but we're outside. I'm like, why not? It's not something totally crazy, even though me and my students would laugh, like, look at us, we're out here in the snow doing yoga. One of my students, she called it snowga.
I love that.
I know, and we're like laughing about we're doing yoga, but that's the whole thing, when you have a community, when you have a commitment, and when you have the support. I feel like you asked me, what am I going to do? I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to keep teaching yoga. I'm going to keep staying with my paddleboarding and my, all of the classes and the offerings that I do. Of course, the sup with your pup and the step yoga. And I'm going to expand my outdoor offerings. I'm going to continue doing workshops because Indo Board is definitely something that I feel doing that class at different spaces. Once things are, getting more and more people are getting vaccinated, I'll be doing definitely a lot more workshops. I love doing workshops because it's just the energy of it, and I miss that. So, but yeah, I'm just gonna keep going where I'm going as long as I'm breathing. I'm gonna keep teaching yoga and creating my art. That's really my focus in life right now. That's it. As long as I'm breathing.
Yes. And like you even said, like when people do maybe get uncomfortable, you even tell them just breathe. So
that's right.
You're living your message. Yeah. That's so great. It's just like there's so many more opportunities coming up, continue doing what you're doing, keep expanding, and then who knows what's going to happen,
That's right.
It's limitless, really.
That's right. And I do want to say one thing, because I know through this past year, there has been a lot of hardships. There have been a lot of losses. There has been a lot of, a heartache, and a lot of people have went through a lot of challenges. And I feel like, just like the phoenix, the bird that would, dive into the fire and come up, I think we have to take what has happened, and I'm telling you, I'm not immune from things. Some of the difficulties that this year has definitely brought on, I've definitely had issues, and but again, we have to try to come out of it and not necessarily reinvent ourselves, but find whatever it is within our heart and our soul. What does it need? What can we do with that, and keep growing for sure. So
yeah,
that's just what I'm.
totally. And I think, a lot of us were kind of pushed to kind of dig deeper than we used to have to in the past. And then we didn't even know what was down there. We thought, oh, there's nothing down there. And then we see there's all of these strengths and, alternative ways to do things. And then it's really like, oh, wow, I had more in me than I even knew. And that goes for all of us. So that's definitely one benefit that I could at least think of. So that's really, it's something that wouldn't have happened otherwise, I don't think.
I feel like that once we're at the very bottom, like when we're at the bottom of the pit, and when I got to a point where I didn't want to get out of bed anymore every day, and I've always worked from home, so it wasn't even that. But I think it was just because I missed the human connection. And then there was just so many other things happening, with my own personal life that was really, really, really hard. And then on top of it all off, with all the anger and everything else that was all flowing all around me from the election and all these different conflicting sides. And it was, so I think that when you're at the bottom there, the very bottom of the pit, and you're looking out and you see these deep, deep edges, and you're thinking, can I make it? And yeah, there's times, like I said, I didn't want to get out of bed, but then, somehow we have to pull ourselves out. And when we get to that point when we're at the edge, peering over and saying, I can do this, that's when you become stronger and a whole new person and whole new being. And that's, I think, from that point, when I was at the edge and I was pulling myself out of the pit, that's when my art came to me. And that's when I started creating, because I was like, I can't just stay in here and hide. I have to come out. And so that's what happened. And I feel like sometimes we have to be at our lowest point to see who we truly are, for that light to really shine through.
Yeah, I think that's so well said, and it's inspirational, and it just really kind of sums up that whole year, just what we all went through and what we made out of it, really. So very, very heartwarming for me, at least.
I know.
Okay, great. And then I think just to kind of sum everything up, where can we find you? Feel free to promote anything. And I'm also going to be linking your handles in the description box too.
Awesome. Yeah, so my website is epicyogaflow.com, and that I try to put as much as I can up there. Uh, so Epic Yoga Flow, and then within there, there's a little, as I said before, there's a little page about my artwork. So you can check that out, and that links to my Etsy store. So my Etsy store is Good Vibes
Mhm.
Butterfly.com. Or not, well, not .com. It's Good Vibes Butterfly .etsy .whatever
Yeah.
.shop or whatever the hell it is. I always forget. And what else is there? I guess that's basically everything else. I guess you can link up, but for the most part, yeah. And for my classes and all that for paddleboarding, when that's going to start, I always start in June, so that's definitely going to be happening. It's just a turn in. For me, it's going to be depend on where I'm going to be more, either Chicago, Montrose Beach, which is where I basically am, where Kayak Chicago is, or I'll also definitely be doing classes up in Highland Park at North Shore Yacht Club. So that's something that, if anyone is interested in looking me up about how to paddleboard with your dog, those are classes that are very, very popular. And that's something I definitely will be continuing teaching. And I'll probably continue doing that as private classes, so one-on-one or two dogs, like your two dogs and me and what have you. And I guess that's basically it. But yeah, follow me, and thanks for having me. Really, that was awesome.
Yes, I know your classes make me want to have a dog now that I can bring or borrow a friend's dog that I could bring with. Okay, great. Yeah. So yeah, Mary Lou, it was such a treat. It was a pleasure having you on here. Just such a multifaceted person. And it's just so unique what you bring to the table. And I just love it. So thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you, Melissa, for having me. I really had fun. This was a lot of fun, even through
Yeah.
Zoom. Yay, it was fun. So
Yay.
thank you.
Yes, yes. Great. And then to everyone out there, as always, you can follow me on thenewAgeGoddess.com, Instagram, the New Age Goddess _ after each word, Facebook, New Age Goddess. And if you would like to book an appointment with me for a Reiki session or Akashic Records reading, you can do so on my website. I do remote and in-person sessions. So thank you everyone for joining us on this week's episode of Confessions of a New Age Goddess. Much love and namaste.
Namaste.